exclusive interview with my brother from Be More News. Like he's amazing. He's still out here. He covers real news. It's not no fake stuff. It ain't nothing that he's gonna alter and make it fit. He puts out nothing but the real news. And I just remember this brother interviewing me, years ago when the mayor at the time when my brother was murdered, when we went to a police brutality meeting, and she tried to make the meeting about a poor baby that got killed on York Road instead of talking about police brutality. And she even went so far as to start talking about HIV in the community, everything besides these killing cops being a cell block. So I'm just glad my brother Donnie just came down here and did an exclusive interview. I can't wait to see it on BeMoreNews.com. And it's just the Doug and Pony show. We're talking about 561 weeks later. And if you think about it, this was a significant week because 9 years ago, Freddie Gray was brutally executed. Brutally executed, and no one still has been held accountable to this day. And even though he asked me an important question, even though I didn't agree with everything Marilyn Monroe did because the fact that she would have all the stuff that I gave her to set and collecting dust, knowing that these animals should have been prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. That's terrible. But I do have to say, maybe it could have been, and I'm not giving her no excuse because it's a shame, definitely a shame. But the fact that when she tried to do something, even though it wasn't like I felt like it was a Doug and Pony show because nothing happened. All they did was calm us. But at the end of the day, it made her a real target because every time the prosecutors or anybody, not even prosecutors, the police department, the FOP, hear her name, all they keep talking about how she went after them for bloody murder, which she should have did. She should have got the right charges. They should be locked up, thrown underneath herself for what they did. And not only Freddie Gray, but then when I took the information to her about my brother, had they would have did something in my brother's case, I honestly believe that what happened to Freddie Gray wouldn't have never happened because you would have sent off a strong message that you're not going to let 17 killer cops and then some of them were violent repeat offenders, do this type of thing, what they did to my brother, just get totally away with it. And the fact that the first killer Ruiz is actually in bed married to the state prosecutor, Michelle Battles, is disgusting. And that's why we can't get real charges. I should have said that on my interview. But everything was going on, and I was trying to hurry up to get to you guys. But the fact that Michelle Battle, a state prosecutor, is married to Ruiz, one of the first murderers that was a part of the Gun Trace Task Force, the same task force that murdered, in my opinion, Detective Cedar. They did the same thing, covered up everything, and then they try to say he committed suicide. But the fact, if you look at the way things start off, you got to keep in mind everything, the way something start off, you got to pay close attention to key facts. When it first happened, we knew that they switched his partner and everything. We knew that they got him, lowered him in the alley. Then the first thing that they said it was a black male that they were looking for with a black jacket with a white stripe on the back of it. That's what they said. And then how you go from that to he actually committed suicide? They must think we're sleeping. And then it gets even earlier. The fact that the partner that he was with actually started them flying Detective Suter to a hospital that was in close range. Just like when my brother was murdered. Good Sam Hospital wasn't even 3 minutes away, but they took time because they knew my brother was dead. But the fact that they didn't even fly Detective Suter as they would any other officer that get murdered and whatnot. I stopped anymore because that sun is like in my eyes. I'm sorry. But the fact that they allowed, you know, the person that was with him that kept saying that he saw somebody run off with this black and white jacket, he put him in that vehicle and drove him to the hospital allegedly. But then you get into a car crash, like all this stuff should have everybody scratching their head. It's an emergency. You hit another car to delay time even further. And then the way that they lied about Detective Suter, they had everybody believing that they had buried him at a cemetery when in fact he was cremated. A known reporter who went to say, "Oh, I got there late. I went to go see the body. Where was he buried at?" it came out later that he wasn't even buried where they said he was buried at, that his body was cremated. So this is how dirty the system is. We have to pay attention to key factors when something happens. Because one thing for certain and two things for sure, the truth don't never change. The truth don't never change. So on that note, I just wanna start talking about something that I saw on the news. And finally, as you noticed that when it was a Caucasian female that got raped and murdered by a repeat sex offender, Billington or whatever his name is, the animal. But when she got murdered, they made a big deal about it and everything. But my thing is the victim that happened before her, which was a black female, she finally came and she did an exclusive interview on the news, and I love what her lawyer said. He said key factors. He said the saddest part was when he did what he did. Not only did Billington got lowered her to come outside. He was working for her apartment complex. I guess he was a maintenance type of guy. He lowered her to come outside. And he pretty much took her back in the house while her and her fiance, boyfriend, man, or whoever, her significant other, he actually raped her and then put her on fire. And the only thing that the media did report was that there was an arson. They didn't say anything about the rape, the home invasion. This is how they downplay stuff when it happens to black people. Let's be crystal clear. They put it under rug. They didn't put out alert and say, "Oh my God, we got this dangerous repeat violent offender that pretty much did what they did to this young lady. Thank God she survived." No, they swept it under the rug. But as soon as they go from down the hill to up the hill and have it in a white community to a white person, now they want to talk about it. Now they want to quickly make laws to change stuff, do this and do that. What about us? That's my question. What about when it happens to us? And that's my whole point. When it happened, and even before I could take it before, I'm not even gonna make this about Tyrone West. Even in the case of Anthony Anderson, that happened a year prior to my brother, right? A year prior to my brother. And it was deemed by the medical examiner's office that it was a homicide. What did Greg Bernstein, who was the current prosecutor at the time, do? He swept it under the rug and he pretty much said it was a justified homicide. And he laughed in their face and did the same exact thing in my face. My family face just laughed and said, "Oh, well, this is good for a civil. You got the best civil attorney." And I'm like, I didn't hire them for anything civil. I hired them for real accountability, and that's putting these killer cops behind a cell block.
That's right.
That's what I hired them for. I'm not thinking about nobody. And as it played out, everybody know that I was true to the word because I had to remove my name off of a lawsuit because at the end of the day, you're not going to craft my language and shut me up with some hush money and keep me quiet and say, "Well, we just going to, we know you do West Lansing, we know you call out the killers. You can still get your portion of the money as his sister because your mother's no longer here. But what we're going to do is we're going to craft your language. You can't call out the cops that killed your brother. You can say your brother." I said, "Stop right there. Take my name off of this nonsense. It's disgraceful. It's a shame. And for y'all to try to do that to my family, like, are you kidding me? First of all, y'all didn't do my brother children a favor. Y'all took something from them that they could never get back. His oldest daughter just had a birthday. She wanted to be with her father. He's having grandchildren. He never got a chance to meet. He only got to meet one of his grandchildren. That was it. And he has at least about 7 grandchildren right now that he never got a chance to meet. All because shame. All because nobody want to hold people accountable when stuff happens to us. And I'll take it a step further, and it's not even to me just with black people, because it's with brown people as well. Because as you listen closely, as we read the list, it's always somebody Latino, you read the name, or somebody African American. And sometimes, every now and then, Caucasian people get killed too. I'm not even saying that was taken away, but I know, in my opinion, they kill black and brown people at a rapid rate. And tonight, within 2 weeks, we have 42 names that we got to read off. 42 names. This is how comfortable they are with murdering us. And guess what? That's a lowball list because that list is only for people that were murdered by gun, by being shot by the police. That's not Freddie Gray. If this happened when Freddie Gray was being murdered, Freddie Gray's name was never on their list. Tyrone West's name wasn't never on their list. And the list goes on. Anthony Anderson's name wouldn't have been on that list. So we know. Absolutely, and the silent murder, that part. That part. So I said all this to say, we are the change. And if we can't pull together and make that difference, they're going to keep on killing us. They always divide stuff, and it's sad that the only time stuff happens and when everybody's coming out is when it first hit the news. But what about after the news is over? What about after the news is over? When these families won't have their loved ones. And then the fact, and I'm gonna start talking now back about my brother Tyrone West. Just in case is anybody out here that don't even know who Tyrone West is, never met him. So when my brother was murdered back in July the 18th, 2013, an unarmed man wasn't doing anything wrong but giving a young lady a ride. He lost his life doing a good deed. And that's horrible. No one should have to lose their life. But the fact, 24 hours before Tyrone West was murdered, there was Darrell Hurst. And who was the first one at his car for a so-called traffic stop? Killer Ruiz, Chapman, and Omar. Let's be crystal clear. And then 2 weeks before that, there was Abdul Salam, who was a resident of that neighborhood. So they knew who Abdul Salam was, but they still did him dirty. It took an elderly woman to come outside her home and actually throw herself in front of Abdul Salam and say, "You better not hit him again." No, I'm not going to stand for this. And even though people knew it, he's the father. Like he had his child out there, his child is being traumatized in a hot vehicle, and and he said, "Excuse me, can y'all please let my son go with my neighbor, Miss Shirley or whatever the lady's name was?" And they're like, "No, get your wife down here." What kind of foolishness is that? He is the dad. Like he was a married man. So what difference do it make if the wife comes down here or he is dad saying, "I want my child to be placed in the custody of so and so while you do this false arrest that you're doing, this illegal arrest that you're doing." They said no, and they had the nerve to threaten him. They told him, "You know what? If your wife is not here in a half an hour, we're going to take your son down to child protective service," even though you got the biological father right there, the baby sitting up there watching his father being tossed on the ground. And as he recalled the incident, my daddy got tossed on the floor. And this is horrible. This is something a young man now is a teenager. But at the time, he was like 3 or 4 years old, traumatized, a baby. And baby memories are very vivid. They remember everything. Because I still know stuff that I remember being a little girl, especially something traumatizing. You're going to unfortunately remember it. So it makes me think, how's his baby doing? Like if he gets anything happens, if they see an officer or something, that's terrible. And then for me, raising my children, I always used to tell them if I'm at a shopping mall and they ever get away from me, always find a police officer. Don't talk to a stranger. Find a police officer. That's what I used to always tell my children. And it's just sad. It's disgusting. And I really feel sorry for the one or two good men and women that's in blue that take their job seriously, does not abuse the need. But I feel sorry for them. But I will say, if you and you don't count, if you're right there and you're seeing somebody like Freddie Gray get beat down and you don't render him no aid, you are a bad cop. It ain't no justifying that. If you were right there when Tyrone West was getting his life beat out of him, you are a bad cop. It's nothing to justify that. If you were out there when Charlie Moorhead was gunned down and pretty much an execution, a targeted execution, they wanted him dead. They watched him, they stalked him. He was doing too much by putting their corruption out there. When he was in the hospital laying the first time, somebody was seriously, we still don't know who shot him in the neck, and he survived. But while he was there, his gut feeling said, "Let me go back to my house." And sure enough, when Charlie Moorhead went back to his house, he was at his house going through his stuff. Baltimore City Police Department, that's who. Why were they there after a man's been gunned down by somebody else that y'all don't, that the community don't know of, but y'all at his house? Make it make sense. And he went live because he had a lot of followers. Because he started something called the No Shoot Zone. And then the fact that how crafty and devilish these jokers are, They do everything intentionally. We think, oh, it might be a coincidence. No such thing. It's intentionally done. They set their mark. It's their MO. That's what they do. When he started his first no shoot zone that way, the first one he started, guess what? That's where he was executed. And you see the officer reload that, put 9 bullets in him. You following the officer, you watched him as he talked on Facebook about having a machete in his car type of thing, and wasn't hurt nobody. And of course, they watch you sitting up there, getting the beef with neighbors and all that stuff, but that has nothing to do with them murdering him. And then mysteriously a woman, and then I keep in mind, it's always a woman. There's always an unknown woman around. Was it somebody that set Tyree Moorhead up? Hey, was it somebody, that woman that was in the car with my brother? Well, she said that my brother ain't know this lady. He was in acquaintance for 2 weeks. He ain't know her. He ain't know her from a can of paint. But mysteriously, when he gets murdered, she's in the car. It's always these women. You gotta watch everything. Because when you watch stuff and you take careful notes, you get to the truth no matter how the media tries to play it down, downsize it. No, remember what you hear and see. And I remember when Eric Gardner was first murdered, the first video I saw, the video that made me go all the way to New York City to stand in solidarity on that corner where he was murdered at, was what he said, and the young man that was recording the video, or the person, it could have been a lady, but whoever was recording the video of Eric Gardner said, oh my God, this dude just broke up a fight. That's what they said on video. But when it got back to the media, it was Gardner was selling loose cigarettes. Get out of here. See, they always try to paint the characters and look at, they always try to put illegal stuff involved, like drugs, money, or them being high. All they got to match to make it fit. Because in my brother's case, my brother had no drugs, but yet they said, oh, he had a bulge of drugs in his socks. Mind you, that was never tested nor submitted. He had no drugs. And out of the killer Ruiz's mouth, when he was on the stand doing a civil case, they asked him, where's the drugs? Where did you hear about? Oh, I heard about it on the news. Like, really? So the struggle started because of what? And then the fact that every time the media plays my brother's story over and over again, they keep going back. A struggle happened because Mr. West got combative because he was in fear of going back to jail. He had drugs on him. But no drugs were never tested nor submitted. And out the killer Ruiz and Chapman's mouth, sworn testimonial, where was the drugs? Why didn't you take them down and get them tested so that way my attorneys could, get them and do their thing with them to see, hey, you could have said he had drugs. This could have been some flour, could have been some sugar, could have been cotton candy. Who knows? But you never take drugs down to be tested or submitted. And out there, mouth was, oh, I heard it on the news. We said he heard about it on the news, and then out of Chapman's mouth was like, oh, I thought I saw him throw something. What? Make it make sense. It don't. Yeah, he said he saw it in socks, but then they said, why didn't you test it? He said he took it and threw it somewhere. He couldn't find it. Make it make sense. Yeah, and oh yeah, and he had no ankle socks. By the way, low cut shoes, the ankle socks. He didn't even have on long socks, and he didn't even have on pants. They can't even lie right. They said when they sat down on the curb, he got combative because his pants leg rolled up, and they saw a little bulge in his white sock. He had on ankle socks and a pair of shorts that came to his knee. So what pants rolled up? Was it Mr. West? Maybe Ruiz's pants rolled up. Maybe Chapman, Omar, one of the 17 killers. Who knows? But it damn sure wasn't Tyrone West. But I said on that, they have to make it fit. And then for them to try to even talk for the day, because these people don't talk. They even made up a whole thing. He said, oh, you going to lock me up for these measly bets? I never, in all 44 years of my brother's life, ever heard him use the terminology measly. Like, get out of here. My brother would never say that. Someone knowing, just like y'all know certain things. Y'all have been around me long enough, going on 11 years. Y'all know things that I would say and things that I wouldn't say. So if somebody came and said that I said something that sounded foolish, you'll be like, well, that ain't sound like Tawanda. Now the Doug and Pony show and foolishness, that sounded like Tawanda, but that ain't sound like Tawanda. But I said all I could say. We have to keep together and make sure we get accountability because ain't nobody coming to save us. Me being a Christian woman, I already know God ain't going to drop down from the sky and be like, oh, no. We have to save ourselves. We have to save ourselves, and it's safe. And one last thing before I pass this mic, just showing you guys, quarterly something always happens that a murder card, no matter where you at in the world, shows you that they don't care nothing about black people, and they show you the restraint of officers no matter what. And I think about my sister, her cousin, Mr. Green, who was killed because he accidentally hit three other cars and he even got knocked unconscious. So you hit three cars in the county and you're unconscious. You wake up, the police knocking on your car, and they dragging you out, and they put you in the front seat of the car. Which who does that? But they got your hands handcuffed behind your back, and then you get executed right up front. You talking about even though he done been patted down, searched everything, but then they go to say he thought he had a weapon. He trying to reach for my weapon. He's handcuffed, and they execute him. But my point, and why I'm talking about this, I want to talk about Miss Flippin' Finger, Miss White Flipper. That's what I'm gonna call her, Miss White Flipper. She was out Dundalk. She had hit three vehicles, and I never. That was the slowest high speed chase I ever saw in my life. I didn't even think it was real. They kept riding around me. They was like, "Oh, we're gonna make sure that the car's gonna be disabled. Something's going on." They started having this conversation talking about mental health. Every time it's a Caucasian person, then they want to understand about mental health. They want to let the wheels roll off the car. They don't want to even they didn't even want to even throw something out there to stop to disable the car. They do one thing, but they literally let her jump out the car. She kept flicking them every 10 seconds, giving them the finger, Miss Flipper, giving them the finger. And then finally, she rolled over counties, right? She rolled over from county to the city. Highway, they shut the whole highway down, all of that, to peacefully chase this white woman, Miss Flipper. Chased her, let her get out the car. She fell because she was so either inebriated or high off or something. She fell onto the ground, got back up, and they're like, oh, and then they went over there and massaged her back, put the cuffs on her, took her away. And then they gave her some bull crap, some foolishness, and say, "Oh, well, we could check because we ain't have a warrant out on you ain't have a warrant out on Tyrone West. You ain't have a warrant out on Abdul Salon, nor Anthony Anderson. So I don't want to hear that foolishness." And then I think about how they cleared the highway, made sure everything was shut down. Even when they got to the county, and from the county to the city, they made sure everything was safe. And it always reminds me of those poor men that were on Key Bridge trying to make sure it was safe for us and nobody cared about their life. They cared enough to shut it down so nobody else wouldn't get hurt, but all it took was one officer. One. Just to ride real fast and say, "Hey guys, come on, jump in here. Something going, we gotta shut, come on, it's the emergency." Because they had got the call when the ship was calling in the Mayday call, saying something like, "We keep losing power, we're losing power." Thank you, but I guarantee you, if those were Caucasian workers, they would have made sure that those men made it out of there safely. And I'm going to end on that note. Mic check. Mic check. First, I want to show my shirt. I talked about Corinne Gaines last week, and juxtaposed her against White Flipper. But I want to talk about Worthless Worley, a couple of different aspects. First, the young black lady who was raped and set on fire by that repeat sex offender. Hmm? April Hurley. April Hurley is her name. She's had to resort to a civil case against the apartment management company for hiring this guy without a background check. But I'm going to tell her and her lawyers, take it a step further. Take it a step further and sue the Baltimore City Police Department for not putting an APB out there when they knew who it was, for not going out there in a press conference and instead of disparaging April and her counterpart, instead of disparaging them, saying, I don't like to speak ill of victims. That's exactly what he said. What the fuck does that mean, Worthless Worley? What does that mean exactly? That your racist ass seen that they were black and you didn't give a shit? Is that what you meant, Mr. Worthless Worley? And then he's on Jane Miller. Jane Miller, I don't know if y'all know this, but now she's got a radio show on WBAL. And he's on there touting his new version of Stop and Frisk, pretty much. Because like they claim like, they've stopped fatal car accidents or whatever. But he was on the mic saying, oh yeah, we've confiscated some guns because people transport guns in their cars, whatever. Well, this is what I'm going to say to those people who were stopped. I guarantee it was an illegal search by BPD. Get a lawyer. Get a good lawyer, because it was most likely an illegal search. Because if you have a permit for a gun and you carry it in your car, you're allowed to. You need to keep the bullets and the guns separate from each other in any case, but who knows how they found the guns? Maybe they planted them. Get a lawyer and see if it was a legal search or not. Now, Worthless Worley has this. They're just making traffic stops. So this is their new version of Stop and Frisk and Jump Out Boys and all that stuff. I witnessed an incident today on the corner of Northern Parkway and Harford Road. They had a whole entire lane blocked, 2 undercover vehicles and a paddy wagon, and 2 young men sitting on a curb. So I doubled back around, made sure that I turned around or whatever. They weren't putting them men in the paddy wagon. That wasn't even a valid stop or whatever. But they literally were causing traffic problems. Harassing these 2 men on Northern and Harford Road. And they were just on the corner. So this is what we're up against. This summer, guaranteed, with all of this stuff, these activities that these cops are out here doing, there's going to be more Tyrone West. There's going to be more Abdul Salams. There's going to be more Anthony Anderson. Because they don't know how to conduct themselves legally. They do not know how to conduct themselves legally. So I'm just telling y'all, be safe out there, because since Brandon Scott and the rest of the city council is allowing this activity to happen by BPD, we are bound, unfortunately, to have more police brutality incidents. Just brace yourselves and be safe out there. Mic check.
Mic check.
My sister always put it on fire, but I'm so blind. And Mama 300 back there looking like a young girl. She got the blonde hair fun. She got her hair all blonde up. I didn't even know that was her. I seen Charlene. I'm like, who's back there? But shout out to both of my queens. Shout out, big love. Yeah, but just like she said, you have to do your own research and make sure the charges fit. Get the right charges on these jokers. And that's the first thing I thought about when I heard about the young lady, April, and what she went through. I said, first, she needs to see Worley, because he knew Worthless Worley knew exactly what was going on. He did not care. He did not care. And just hearing her talk, my sister, she got me. I had to take off my coat. First I was cold, then I got hot. But anyway, but I'm just looking at this officer that's watching us. That every time we come, they always send somebody to watch us. But it's so sad. Why didn't they use that energy to watch and save lives in Brooklyn homes? All they needed was one patrol car to be out there. And they heard all this stuff, all these fights were breaking out. They heard about all this stuff. Guess what? Again, let's bring it back to race. Let's bring it home. They didn't do anything because they didn't care. It was a bunch of black folks. It was more black folks there, so they did not care. And it's sad that it's about the complexion to make the connection to this dirty, racist system. And that's why I feel like, in all actuality, we need to knock it down and build it up again because it ain't no fixing this. You can't fix trash. You can't fix some things you can fix, but this system that's designed to wipe us out, designed and built on the necks and backs of racism, is disgusting to me. It's horrible to me. And I feel like we definitely need to knock it down and build it back up. So I'm gonna open up the mic and see if anybody else want to say anything before we get to our awful sad list. Mic check.
Mic
Oh,
check.
I didn't want to say something.
Just to the officer over in the U.S. fuel station over here. Since we only want y'all to be doing traffic stuff, have you not seen all these people running this red light? Instead, you want to just sit there. But I witnessed about 5 people run this red light that you could have got easy tickets on. Do your job.
The crime is different.
Good evening, everyone. I want to start with a chant. Let me say it one time, and then maybe we could all do it together. I still hear my brother crying, I can't breathe. Now I'm in the struggle saying, I can't leave. I still hear my brother crying, I can't breathe. Now I'm in the struggle saying, I can't leave. I still hear my brother crying, I can't breathe. Now I'm in the struggle saying, I can't leave. I want to talk about 3 things that might seem disconnected, but actually have a lot in common. The first is police brutality. The second is the genocide in Gaza. And the third is the 6 deaths on the Key Bridge. Now, if we go back to slavery, when policing originated to brutalize people who tried to escape and make a public spectacle to put fear in the minds of others so they hoped they wouldn't rebel or try to get away. Let's keep in mind, what was that system all about? That system was a system of unpaid labor. So they could grow the cotton and tobacco and make a lot of money without paying anybody to do it. The system of unpaid labor and that early police violence was for the purpose of enforcing and maintaining that system. Now we come to today. We have a system of low paid labor. So if you look at the average income of workers, black workers and Latino workers make significantly less working full time than white workers do. White workers are exploited too. The bosses don't care for anybody that works for them, but they exploit black and Latino workers the most. So if you look at the difference in income between black and Latino and white, we'll find that that difference consists of billions of dollars. And it turns out that about 20% of corporate profits are directly based on the lower pay to workers of color. Or what some people say, which is probably a better expression, the global majority. So today, when the police brutalized many more people than they killed, and then they killed, as you'll hear tonight, on average of 3 a day, 3 people a day, they're doing the same thing that the early police did. They're trying to put fear in the hearts of working class people, especially people of color or people in the global majority, and trying to maintain a system of low paid labor. So the profit motive plays a big role in motivating this system to engage in police brutality on a regular. Now, if we look at the genocide in Gaza, what's that all about? It turns out that Israel is a police agent, in a sense, a whole country acting as a police agent for U.S. domination of the oil in the Middle East. If some country challenges the U.S. for domination of that oil, Israel will go in and assassinate one of their nuclear scientists or bomb an embassy. So they're acting in the interest of big business from the United States that wants to maintain control of the profit from the Middle East. And so again, the horrible deaths from police brutality here and the horrible deaths from genocide in Gaza are both rooted in trying to maintain the most profit that they can for big business. And the third thing are the deaths on the Key Highway Bridge, or the Key Bridge. By the way, it was named after Francis Scott Key, and he wrote that song, and he wrote a poem, was turned into the national anthem, right? Isn't that what it is?
Mm-hmm.
And verse 3 of the national anthem is all about black people ought to be killed. It's horribly racist. It's because during that war, the War of 1812, the British, who were fighting the U.S., the British said, for any enslaved people to join us, we'll give you freedom. And quite a few black folks joined the British to win their freedom. In fact, just a few weeks before Francis Scott Key wrote that poem, he was in the military. He was leading a troop or a brigade, whatever the unit was, and that black brigade fighting for the British trounced him and his forces. So 3 weeks later, he wrote that song and talked about it ought to be death to the black people that are fighting for the British to win their freedom. And it's a shame that the bridge was named after him, and he has that notoriety today. By the way, his brother-in-law was Tawney. He's the one that wrote for the, I guess it was the Supreme Court, I forgot, but he wrote that decision which said a black man has no rights which a white man is bound to respect. And he did a lot to support him and agree with him. Anyway, back to the horrible deaths on that bridge. There are 4 ways in which the profit motive led to the horrible deaths of those 6 workers. Point number 1, in 1968, before they built that bridge, the plan was to build a tunnel. And they'd already built the on-ramp and the off-ramp for the tunnel. But then some people said, well, a bridge will be cheaper. So they switched up and built the bridge. And the marine pilots who get on the ships to steer them safely through the harbor, because they know the harbor really well, they said it should be a tunnel, not a bridge, because someone's going to crash into it and that bridge is going to fall. But they lost that campaign to keep it as a tunnel. That was point 1. But on the bridge itself, the 6 workers worked for a particular company that in the last few years has had 4 violations for safety for construction workers working for them in high locations without the proper safety. 4 citations and fines. And then the rule was, if they have a workforce working adjacent to or above the water, they're supposed to provide a safety boat, which they did not do. If the safety boat had been there, perhaps when those workers fell, they could have been rescued, because you could only live in that cold water in the river at that time of year for about an hour, and you would go unconscious from the cold. So perhaps that boat could have saved some of those lives. The other thing, as was mentioned earlier tonight, that company that they worked for made no way for those workers to be notified in the event of an emergency. So as Tawana pointed out, the mayday from the ship came 3 minutes before the crash. It was enough time to get people to close off both entrances and save anyone else from dying. But they did not, and one of the living worker from that group of 8, he said they were not notified. There was no system in place to do that. And the last thing I want to say about the profit motive in the death of those workers is that it used to be in the Baltimore Harbor, when a big ship came out, tugboats would ride with it all the way under that bridge, all the way to the port, and on the way out, all the way under the bridge. They cut that out because the newer ships had more accurate steering. They said we don't need to do it anymore. But it turns out it was not just this ship, but in the last 3 years, since 21, there have been 40 ships that lost control. Fortunately, none of those 40 ships were right next to that bridge or the Bay Bridge. So we avoided tragedy. We were lucky. But this one ship lost power right near the bridge. Now, and one of those ships, by the way, got pulled by tugboats down the Chesapeake to a repair shop. And it was even bigger than the ship that hit the Key Bridge. So in other words, tugboats, even though these ships are gargantuan, the tugboats are still capable of leading those ships safely and steering them. But if Baltimore had a rule that every boat had to have tugs accompanying it in and accompanying it out. It would add a little bit to the freight cost. And then some of those ships would be sent instead to the port in Philadelphia, the port in Norfolk, and so on. So the competition to make profit is a race to the bottom, because Baltimore would lose some of that business, and they're reluctant to make that rule about the tugboats to enforce safety. So in all these cases, police brutality, the genocide in Gaza, the deaths on this bridge, it's the profit motive of the capitalist system that is heartless and cruel and callous and causes these deaths, these horrible deaths. So I just wanted to close with that point. Mic check.
Mic check.
Thank you. Awesome point. So, I want to bring up this young lady, who I met when we had our 555 West Wednesday, and she wanted to speak. Mic check.
Mic check.
They are intentionally killing our bodies, souls, and minds. You must be aware of the conditions that you are in. This is not normal. Look around at your surroundings and your environment, how poverty is not normal. The lack of love is not normal. Accepting it is accepting your death. Being anti-political is accepting your death. You must be conscious and aware of what's going on, or you will slowly die and your spirit will die. And after your spirit dies, your will die. Your will die, you will not fight. You must fight because they will fight and they will defeat you. If you do not care. There is no not caring, you must care. I wish there was more people outside because this is very important. You cannot accept your conditioning. These conditionings are not normal. There should be no reason there's no police and no program. Where the programs, I was coming to the market every day, seven police officers. Nobody out there with no programs for just drug addiction. No one's out there with no programs for housing. Police is not the answer. Programs are the answer. Community is the answer. Please do not judge your brothers and your sisters that's more of a victim of the corruption than you. Do not judge the drug addicts. You must understand what led them to the conditioning. You do not judge the drug dealers. You must understand what led them to the conditioning. Do not judge. You must understand the conditioning they were placed in, that you are placed in. It is affecting your spirit even if you're not aware. They are intentionally killing our bodies, souls, and spirit. Do not let them kill our bodies, souls, and spirit. Do not let them kill your spirit. Do not let them kill your body. Do not let them kill your brothers or sisters' bodies. You cannot accept it. There is no anti-political. They are political, and they're weaponizing against you for your labor, for your soul, and for your spirit, for your work. They are killing your body, soul, and spirit intentionally. All of this is planned. All of this is very much intentional. Look around. Look around where the people. Look around why does poverty exist? Money is not real. Why does poverty even exist? They are intentionally killing your body, soul, and spirit. They are intentionally killing your body, soul, and spirit. Be conscious of what's going on and be aware of how much of the lack of love is. This is not normal. Look around. Notice how it makes you feel in your body. Your body will tell you the truth, even if your mind and your spirit is unaware. You feel uncomfortable for a reason. You feel depressed for a reason. You feel anxious for a reason. This is they're intentionally killing your body, soul, and spirit. Be aware, learn how to fight against it. Oh, mic check.
Mic check.
Yes, thank you. Yes, thank you so much, Queen. Yes, so for time's sake, do anybody else want to speak before we wrap it up? Okay, my brother, yes. Dan, to the rescue. Mic check.
Mic check.
Mic check.
Mic check.
We all we got.
We all we need.
We got all we got.
We all we need.
I just wanted to say a few things. I guess I'm going to beat a dead horse named Worley again. I just wanted to point out the fact that not only this incident with April Hurley, say her name.
April Hurley.
Say her name.
April Hurley.
Not only did this incident occur when Worley was the interim commissioner, after several missteps, fatal missteps in Brooklyn homes, and the victim of Jason Billingsley, the city council still voted 11-1 to confirm him. And so it's not just, Worley's bad enough, but it's not just him. It's those that condone and support and validate the corruption in the system that continues to keep it going. And so we must condemn all of them. Yes, condemn anybody who is contributing to injustice and the corruption in our system. Cannot happen. We can't stand by. I thank you for saying that. In the Jewish religion, I'm not very religious. I'll put that out there. But the religion preaches that one must stand up against injustice. You cannot stand by. We must all stand up against injustice and not perpetrate it. So yeah, so those are the two big things. The one other thing, system wide, I don't know if folks heard about it recently, but at Taxpayers Night, there's a group. I wish I remember their name, but they're fighting to get money that belongs to the citizens in Baltimore City back to us. There are several institutions, probably you know at least one very large private institution called Johns Hopkins that don't pay any property taxes. It is one of the biggest shameful acts in this city. They pay in lieu of taxes some other fee. I don't even know how this thing called called pilots. And so the city collect what they would really collect in property taxes is about $110 million, and these pilot fees come up to about $6 million a year. So we are shorting the citizens of Baltimore by over $100 million every year. This is a shameful act and needs to end, not only in Baltimore but anywhere that this is happening. So that's all I really had to say tonight. I just wanted to let people know about that. There is a movement, and I wish I remembered the name of the organization, but we all need to get behind this. They want to create what's called a tax that would just go into a fund, and then that tax would go back to the citizens of Baltimore. Mic check.
Mic check.
Thank you guys, and thanks each and every last one of y'all for sharing, taking the time to actually share. Thanks for each and every last one of you that didn't share, but just out here. Thanks for everybody that's online, that's tuning in. I love you guys, and I just wanted, before we go into something sad, I want to share something that made my day. That had me running around like I was at church tonight, like literally. So when I got home, I was feeling all sad and depressed, change, strange, money, funny type of thing. But anybody know, no matter how strange my change is, I'm gonna eat. They know I'm gonna eat. I'm gonna feed my holy temple, no matter what. So, but anyway, as I'm coming home, I'm looking at one of my neighbors. Like I live in between, two neighbors or whatever. So one of my neighbors keep his front immaculate with the flowers even showing off. It's beautiful. So I'm like, okay. So whenever the grass starts growing on my side, it started looking a mess, like my house don't even belong in that neighborhood. So it started going after these storms, and I'm like, oh my God, I gotta hurry up. And I'm trying to reach out to everybody, trying to see like if somebody come cut my grass type of thing. To no avail, nothing. So the day as I'm pulling out, my neighbor was cutting this grass, and I'm on the phone talking to my cousin, like, oh, this really made my night. I was like, oh my goodness, now I see my neighbor, he out here cutting his grass, so I'm really gonna look like I'm a bandit, like shut my house down. So me, I'm joking about it. So she like, well, won't you ask him to? I said, I'm not asking no. I said, I don't like it, my feelings hurt, even if it's nice. And he said, well, I said, cause I'm quite sure, cause this grass is going on high, I'm quite sure he didn't feel like cutting his own. I would not dare ask him that. So I'm like, I'm just praying on it. So me and her talking a little bit longer. So I get out my car. I couldn't believe my eyes. He was cutting my grass, y'all. I was like, thank you, sis. It's really good. And that made my whole night. I was like so happy, like, oh my God. And I was like, I offered the cash app him a few bucks or PayPal. He like, no, you ain't gotta worry. He did it like from his heart. So a good deed, like, really goes far. Like, that was just beautiful. He blessed my life in so many ways. And I'm still going to put a thank you card in his mailbox when I get a chance with a couple dollars, because that was just a beautiful thought. Like, but he made my whole, like, I literally was crying. You would have thought I hit the lottery for $1 million to Mega Millions. I screamed so loud, y'all. I gave my own self a headache before I came here. So that's why I'm definitely got to stop and get something to eat when I leave here. But anyway, I just had to share the good news or whatever that made my day. So just always remember, you can just be a blessing to anybody just from a small deed of act of, kindness goes a long way. Like, that made the rest of my week. Everything that had me in depression, I just like, okay, this is what life is about right here. Just being nice and kind to each other. So that really made my day. So that's what I ain't hit the Mega Millions yet, y'all. But that's what my post was about when I was like, won't he do it or God is good? That's what my post was about. So now I got to go to the sad part. And unfortunately, we got a long list, and I apologize because we carried over a little bit tonight. So definitely apologize because I respect everybody's time. So we're going to take a minute after I read our statement, our mission statement. It is our mission of the West Coalition to work for accountability for Tyrone West and all the victims of police brutality. We believe, wait a minute, I went up too far, sorry. We believe there is a connection between police brutality and community violence. Police can use de escalation strategies to defuse situations without necessarily using force. And we encourage community members to resolve disputes without violence. We care deeply about those families impacted by police brutality and community violence. We seek to lift up the names of them from, we seek to lift up the names of their loved ones from a place of respect and care. We obtain these lists of names of those shot and killed by police and those lost to community violence from national and local news outlets. We know that these are by no means exhaustive lists and that gun violence isn't the only way people are murdered. We do not obtain detailed information about the circumstances surrounding each of these deaths or the people who died. Reading these names, we are not condoning violent behavior on the part of anyone involved in the situation. So at this time, it is 8:08, I believe, and we will resume at 8:09. Mic check.
Mic check.
All right, guys, thank you so much. The time now is 8:09. I'm going to bring my brother Brian out here with the sad community violence list. Mic check.
Mic check.
Uh, in the past, well, a little more in the past week, two people died by violence in the community. Their names haven't been released, so we will have to try to honor them next week. We do have one name that we didn't have last week of a person who was killed in that time span. So I would just ask you to lift up the name of Robert Lee Johnson.
Robert Lee Johnson.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Mic check. So now my sister, my beautiful sister, Hillary the Queen, is going to read our unfortunate, long, sad list of police brutality. Mic check.
Mic check.
Let's remember these are folks who were shot and killed by police, but there are many more who died by other ways by the police. Okay, we're going to start with April 5th and then go up to the most recently reported death that the Washington Post listed. On April 5th, 2024, in Cerritos, California, 46-year-old Mauricio Sandoval.
Mauricio Sandoval.
On April 6th, in Doral, Florida, 37-year-old Jamal Wayne Wood.
Jamal Wayne Wood.
Also on April 6th, in Conway, Arkansas, an unidentified male.
Cell blocks for killer cops.
On April 6th, in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, a 40-year-old man, David Vanderham.
David Vanderham.
On April 8th, in Grand Prairie, Texas, 43-year-old Ryan Sean Oxley.
Ryan Sean Oxley.
Also on April 8th, in Fairplain, Michigan, 42-year-old man, unknown name.
Cell blocks for killer cops.
On April 9th, in Houston, Texas, 16-year-old Jose Jesus Segura.
Jose Jesus Segura.
On April 9th, in North Vernon, Indiana, 23-year-old woman, Rachel Blake.
Rachel Blake.
On April 9th, in Waukesha, Wisconsin, 50-year-old Christopher M. Milakovich.
Christopher M. Lackridge.
On April 9th, in Attica, Kansas, 54-year-old Cheryl Gaines.
Cheryl Gaines.
On April 10th, in Minnetonka, Minnesota, 28-year-old Clint Poyhaita.
Clint Poyhaita.
On April 10th, in Waynesboro, Virginia, 29-year-old Kevin Taylor.
Kevin Taylor.
On April 10th, in Sullivan, Indiana, give me a minute, 54-year-old Cameron Atkins.
Cameron Atkins.
On April 10th, in Tulsa, Oklahoma, 28-year-old Jesus Huerta Sanchez.
Jesus Huerta Sanchez.
On April 10th, in Austin, Texas, unidentified male.
Cell
Cell
blocks for killer cops.
On April 11th, they don't have the age, but in Albuquerque, New Mexico, Mark Benavidez.
Mark Benavidez.
On April 11th, in Columbus, Arkansas, 65-year-old Randy May.
Randy May.
On April 11th, in El Paso, Texas, 27-year-old Martin Herrera.
Martin Herrera.
On April 11th, in San Marcos, Texas, 22-year-old Malachi Williams.
Malachi Williams.
On April 12th, in Cottonwood, Arizona, 32-year-old Donovan Jalili.
Donovan Jalili.
On April 12th, in Memphis, Tennessee, 18-year-old Jalen Lobley.
Jalen Lobley.
On April 12th, in San Antonio, Texas, 49-year-old woman, Marta Crater.
Marta Crater.
On April 12th, in Warren, Michigan, 18-year-old Hassan Al-Raji.
Hassan Al-Raji.
On April 13th, in Pampa, Texas, 25-year-old Ezekiel Jackson.
Ezekiel Jackson.
On April 13th, in Henderson County, North Carolina, 29-year-old Hayden Brooke.
Hayden Brooke.
On April 13th, in Durand, Michigan, 43-year-old Daniel Silver.
Daniel Silver.
On April 13th, in Vancouver, Washington, 41-year-old Benjamin Woods.
Benjamin Woods.
On April 13th, in Pasadena, California, 36-year-old Ricardo Andrade.
Ricardo Andrade.
On April 14th, in Syracuse, New York, 33-year-old Christopher Murphy.
Christopher Murphy.
On April 14th, in Houston, Texas, 47-year-old Patrick Hurst.
Patrick Hurst.
On April 16th, in Ferguson, Montana, Missouri, 18-year-old Joshua Campbell.
Joshua Campbell.
On April 16th, in Merkston, Texas, 26-year-old Trevor Myrick.
Trevor Myrick.
On April 17th, in Toledo, Ohio, 26-year-old woman Erica Allen.
Erica Allen.
On April 17th, in Oakland, California, 33-year-old Dominique Broach.
Dominique Broke.
On April 17th, in Long Beach, California, an unidentified male.
Cell blocks for killer cops.
I said. On April 17th, in Knoxville, Tennessee, 41-year-old William McBride.
William McBride.
On April 17th, in Tukwila, Washington, an unidentified person.
Cell blocks for killer cops.
Also on April 17th, in Pueblo, Colorado, an unidentified male.
Cell blocks for killer cops.
Then on April 17th, in Cabin Creek, West Virginia, an unidentified male.
Cell blocks for killer cops.
On April 18th, in Colchester, Connecticut, doesn't say the age, Jared Billard. On April 18th, in Lorain, Ohio, 34-year-old Derek Smith.
Derek Smith.
On April 18th, in Norcross, Georgia, 39-year-old Stephen Scott.
Stephen Scott.
Remember, all of these people have friends and family, so the pain goes far. Mic check.
Mike check.
Thank you guys so much. Again, thank you guys for coming out. Thank you for joining us online. And thank you. And just remember what Hillary said. All those people that we read are human, sweet beings, and they have family members that will be affected, even though she didn't say that part, just me. But is affected by this. So thank you guys. Remember, live to love, love to live. And I will see you guys next West Wednesday. We're going to unfortunately be online because my daughter is having a big send-off at her gym, and I'm going to have to be there at 6 o'clock because they're getting ready for their final competition. So I'm going to have to be there at 6 o'clock, so I will be in the car doing West Wednesday. So, mic check.